introduce ourselves and what we do. And I'll start off. So I'm Trey. I'm an astrophysicist here, but I do a lot of data visualizations of the sun using not only the numerical models that I've built, but also the AI instrument, which is big, beautiful images of the sun, experiencing 365 days a year. Everybody that's seen the solar ball has gone, wow, that's good. And if you guys want, at some point I want to arrange for one of the meetings to be in that room so I can show you what all that's like. But I'm doing more and more museum exhibits because of that. And so I kind of started this off because I found out that there are other people doing similar things, but we never talked to each other about those kind of things we did. We talked to each other about Python and stuff like that. We went to the Python and no idea that all these other cool things were happening. So this is just kind of a way to break down the silos and get people that are doing things on the intersection of science, outreach, public engagement, and actually art and design together and talking to each other so that we can do something as a group that we could never do individually. So.
Hi, I'm Benedict Diemer. I'm an ITC postdoc. I work on structure formation, so far mostly embody simulations, and I got into visualizing those a lot sort of in my last year of my PhD. But I wanted to go beyond just the standard 2D images that people do, and so I sort of got really into 3D imaging. I teamed up with an artist from the School of the Art Institute in Chicago, and we started this art project where we explored the cosmic web in 3D. So we've done 3D printing as sort of an initial stage, and now we're doing really bizarre textile sculptures of the cosmic web. So this is sort of more an artistic exploration at this point. But I'm always interested in new thoughts about visualization and new ideas for things to do.
All right.
I'm Joe DiPasquale. I'm a visualization specialist for Chandra X-ray Observatory, the public outreach group. So I put together data from various telescopes to make multi-wavelength images for our bi-weekly, roughly, press releases. But beyond that, I've also gotten involved over the last 2 years in 3D printing. So we've got a bunch of models here, but this is probably the reason why we started was CAS-A. This is a 3D model of the supernova Cassiopeia A, based on X-ray and infrared data. And we've been trying, somewhat unsuccessfully, to get a good print of that over the past 2 years. And they just, this past week, have made the best print I ever did.
Wow, and so this is using that new technique that you were talking about?
Yeah, so we just got a new printer. It's a Ultimator 3 that has dual extrusion. And it prints with two materials. One of them is a water-soluble support structure. So.
Oh, nice.
And so once this is done printing, you just dunk it in a tank and all that white stuff just falls off.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I like it.
Yeah, it seems magical.
So this is a 1/1,100,000
Oh yeah, I don't even
scale.
know.
Yeah, that's you're holding parsecs in your hands.
Parsec.
5 inches.
5 inches to a parsec.
This is
10 light years across, I think. CAS-A.
So you can even see the topo lines, essentially.
Yeah, so that there you're seeing the difference between printing with the old printer that uses the same material for the support structures. But I'm sorry, I took over like.
Right.
No.
Toys.
Yeah.
Pass around toys.
No, that's what this is all about.
I have to get my phone, excuse me.
No.
I'll be back momentarily.
And so, yeah, there really isn't that much structure to this, and since there's not, I'm going to go ahead and destroy the structure that I already made. I mean, this is awesome, this is cool. Now, you've got the 3D printer in your office, right?
2 of them.
And what about ventilation issues and stuff like that?
Yeah, I keep the window open and I have a little fan.
All right.
When you walk by, you can smell something's going on in there.
It's funny, the Ultimator
Smell what
This
Joe's
is why the
cooking.
library
Yeah.
can't have fun
The
things.
Ultimator 2 has a very distinct odor.
Okay.
It smells very much like cannabis.
Or so you say.
So you've been told.
I don't know.
We don't know, but okay. Okay, that's interesting. And but the PVA, the water soluble stuff, it's just no better, no worse than the other stuff because
Right.
I love this printing method because the scaffolding can really be a trouble. Yeah. And I'm already like getting ideas and stuff for some stuff I want to do just based on these, because this is so intricate
Yeah.
and detailed, and you could never hollow it out with like a, you know, what I consider.
This was done with the old printer where the support structures were the same material.
Uh-huh.
And so I actually went in with like a chisel and hollowed it
How long
out.
did that take you?
It takes about an hour to get through this.
Oh god.
How
Okay.
much more expensive was this one?
This one was 3,500, I think. It's not that much more than the Ultimaker 2.
Oh.
Yeah. But it's brand new and it definitely has some bugs. So they just sent me a new logic board for it. I have to completely replace all parts.
Are there other
Details.
Welcome to the maker community.
Machines? Are there other machines that do this? That
There are other ones, although I haven't heard of any that are sort of consumer friendly model like the Ultimaker is. Like that's just really a plug and play kind of machine.
I have seen several, and then not the Cartesian system. I forget what it's called, but it's got more like a big arm that moves around instead of steps and X and Y.
Okay.
It just has like full 3D motion.
Yeah.
But those are not consumer friendly. They're very much, you know what you're doing, and you can, manage repairs on the fly. So.
Right.
There's also the new print. This took almost.
Oh, yeah,
like
it takes significantly longer.
It took about 40 hours.
41 hours for this group.
Okay.
And that's because in the process of doing it, it has two print heads, and one of them, the support structure print head is called print B. And there's actually a clip mechanism on it that the print head has to move all the way over to the side of the printer and hook onto this little thing and then move forward, and it pulls the print head up so that when it's printing with the material, that print head is out of the way. And so every time it needs to change, it has to go over and do that, flip back, do it again. So
okay.
it just increases the print time.
Yeah.
But if you got 40 hours to kill.
Joe, is that every layer?
Yeah, every layer.
Yeah, so each one's not that much of an at a time, but every layer adds up. All right, so we'll go back to farmhouse now. Evan?
Okay. I'm Evan Tingle. I work in the China Director's Office as an IT specialist. Joe works right down the hall from me, so I kind of glommed on to him and helped out with some of the 3D printing stuff, which is fun. I'm also, I coordinate the Chandra's presence at the AAS, and so we're always interested in new kind of outreach stuff. There, and Joe and I work together on that as well. Also at the AAS, at every meeting, they open it up to the public. They have local kids come in, and we get anywhere from a couple dozen to hundreds of kids, and everybody knows about Hubble. No one really knows about Chandra, so we're trying to explain to them that X-rays are a thing that exist outside the dentist's office, and how X-ray mirrors work, and it's interesting and fun and tough because we get like 10 minutes with these kids and we have to explain a whole new realm of astronomy to them. But,
Right.
so,
And
yeah, right. Yeah. All right.
me.
Yeah.
So I'm Dana Boquin. I'm the acting head librarian here. I eat cupcakes on occasion. I'm interested in facilitating software preservation and research reproducibility here, so everything you guys are working on. And computational literacy is really something that I think that we can have a lot of shared resources to facilitate, but I'm also interested in making sure the library is a place where you can come and experience all levels of the research going on here, including things that have happened in the past, and finding ways to make sure that things don't go dark. So preserving everything you guys are working on and making sure it's accessible.
I'm Frank Sequix. I'm in the Science Ed Department. I'm the project engineer for the Micro Observatory Robotics Network of telescopes purposely built for educational needs, audiences. Been going on for about 20 years, continuously online for 20 years, starting next year. And I do other stuff in terms of EPO and curriculum development and public outreach. And part of Roy Gould and Mary Duselt's group for informal ed. and my colleague is Erica Wright. So one of the projects or programs that's coming up this Wednesday night, if you want to do local outreach now, we have space at the Roxbury Innovation Center in the square where we're going to have a public open night. It's the first time that a research-based program has connected with Boston Public Schools, and in particular the STEM coordinator for all STEM educators in the Boston Public School system. That's kind of hard enough to crack.
What is this called? What's it on Wednesday?
I don't know. You have to look at the email.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'll-
It's a third party.
So I'll forward the email around to everybody. I unfortunately cannot go,
So
but
I
it
might have
sounds
missed
awesome.
Right. So we've partnered with something called the Timothy Smith Network, which you guys might want to find out about at some future date. It's a bunch of technology centers that have been set up in numerous entities within the Boston city limits. It could be a library, a community center, a STEM center, a maker center, a youth center, a school that does out-of-school time events. And essentially it was a pot of money that was given back in the 1800s that was going to go away if it wasn't given to the city of Roxbury, which was absorbed by the city of Boston before the turn of the century, the prior century. So there's multiple millions of dollars that were finagled with lawyers that if they provided technology centers, which essentially initially were a bunch of computing centers throughout Boston proper. So there's a whole network of computers in various places throughout the city with facilitators in a network, and we partnered with them because they had a whole bunch of computers and they were teaching word processing, getting started in Excel, and they wanted to do something more. And so we implemented some of our outreach programs in Science Ed through them. And we continued that partnership for, it's been 6 or 7 years now. So it's a good partner to know, and it might be a good partner for anyone that wants to do local outreach. They haven't been doing maker stuff yet, though. Not yet.
What was the name of this?
Timothy Smith Network. And essentially every 4 years they get new computers, each center.
Your turn now, Tom.
My turn. I'm Nigel Atkins. My background is in submillimeter radio astronomy. I'm more of an instrument engineer. I was at the James Clerk Maxwell Telescope for 4 or 5 years in Hawaii, and then moved back here, and then got involved with the SOHO solar observing satellite until the money ran out. Now I'm working with CF, doing engineering, power, and systems monitoring, but my interests lie in embedded processors and 3D printing. So I have fingers in different pies.
And maybe active 3D systems. Nigel and I are scheming currently.
We're scheming, yes. So that's all about me.
I'm Gabby. I'm the technology fellow over at the Harvard Art Museums, working on the Lightbox Gallery, which is our kind of digital space for exploring the collections, just supporting projects both external and internal groups want to put on.
If you haven't seen the Lightbox, it's an amazing facility. It's a video wall much like the one that I built here, but since it's newer than mine, it's got like almost no bezels and stuff like that. It's only got one problem as far as I can see, and that's the things on Windows. But we can have a chat about that later.
Hi, so I'm Jill Naiman. I'm an SF postdoc fellow here. I also work on large-scale structure. Mostly right now, sort of making big waves with those. And I'm also interested in outreach and some visualization stuff. So I've done some work in getting astronomical data into programs like Blender and recently Houdini, so that astronomers can more easily visualize their stuff without having to send it to big, expensive art studios.
And as soon as I get finished with my paperwork that I have to get out, she's helping me convert some of the images and data that we get from solar missions into formats that are compatible with 3D printers, so we can actually start to print these off and have a direct pipeline, so that if you say, oh, this is neat, you don't have to like recreate the wheel every time. There'll be this whole pipeline flow, and just send this data file, and then we'll convert it into a 3D print. And then 40 to 50 hours later, you have a little
She's also going to be in the springtime. We have to like figure out dates and things like
Yeah, I know I
that.
said I was going to do it, so it's up to
We didn't decide yet. We need to
Oh,
find a
good.
student still to like be
Yes.
involved. Yeah, so I have lots of emails.
not my fault.
So sometime in the spring she's going to do a YT sort of training 101 type session in the library. So
YT's data visualization, so it won't quite come.
And it's used for like a lot of, mostly simulation, but also observational data, so it's sort of a uniform thing you can use for a bunch of different data sets.
So if you've never used it, hopefully you'll be able to come to the library and try using it.
All right, so without any more formal ado, let's play with toys.
It's like, what do we have?
I mean, we've already played with some model toys, but
Yeah.
show us your data.
All right, so I thought, do you want to talk a little bit about the jelly bean thing?
Yeah.
Pass those down.
Yeah, you can just pass
Yeah, the whole bomb.
So there's a motivation for this
I
whole
don't want to
thing.
start. I feel bad like
Gotta-
reaching over with food over
Sure.
like
Oh, is it like glasses?
Oh, dear.
See, this is why you have variety. Yeah. By the way, one of the rules is that you have to eat.
You have to eat.
There's like,
It's
I'm
not
sorry.
going back to your office,
Yes,
right,
not going
Trey?
back to my office. So I don't care what,
There's an unwritten rule.
You could take it with you, you could give it to a friend. But,
You should recommend leaving a planet.
I might think it was me, but I give that some thought.
okay.
So,
3D printing gender.
so our main motivation for this project was for about a decade at the AAS conference, we would bring you may have seen it. It was basically like a 2-gallon jar that was filled with jelly beans, and it was 96% black jelly beans and 4% colored jelly beans, and it was supposed to represent the dark matter, dark energy, baryonic matter distribution of the universe. That was all well and good. It went. I feel that activity went on a long time, and to the point where it had morphed a little bit, and we were trying to then explain dark matter and dark energy to 7 or 8 year olds in a 10-minute span, which was very difficult. And eventually, well, there were a few problems with it. Initially, we would have the kids create their own universes. And when the project first started, I wasn't here, but they actually gave the kids handfuls of jelly beans to physically do it. And you're supposed to put 96%, and they would kind of eyeball it. And, they would get eaten. They would get very sticky. And so then they changed it around to use marbles instead.
Which still got eaten.
You'd be surprised.
No.
That got through product review?
I suppose. I don't know what happened.
That slips through the toilet paper tube.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the standard? Anything that goes
For NASA, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, actually not for NASA, for child toys. For choke tails.
So we would.
I assume it was adult supervised by a scientist, right?
Yeah, there were lots of eyes, but the problem was, well, also kids knew there were marbles. When you had it sitting out at a AAS conference, people would walk by and just assume any shiny thing sitting out is either food or something to take.
Right.
So they would get pocketed, or we saw one guy ate one. Oh, like, I mean, he did put it in his mouth, and we were no. So
Spit out a
yeah.
filling or two, right?
So there's just so there are a lot of shortcomings with that, and we decided let's mix it up. People don't really know how. I feel like the general public doesn't know how an X-ray telescope works, or what it does, or what it looks at. And while we came up with a couple of ideas. this was about the time when Joe got his 3D printer, so we were 3D printing Casse, we were 3D printing Chandra. Later we 3D printed, this is a model of the mirrors. We made this in 1-2-3D design, so this is just done by us. It's a pretty simple shape, but it comes apart and comes together, and you can show kids how there's like the hyperbolic and parabolic sets of mirrors in here. So that was fun. And then, but we wanted something more hands-on, and we've been talking about this and playing around with different ideas for this for a long time. But it
Yeah,
became
so-
kind of a working prototype.
Evan and I were talking about this last year at the AAS meeting because, like Evan said, the sort of focus of the interactivity with the kids sort of shifted from the Jelly Bean thing to just like, check out Chandra. This is what the mirrors on Chandra look like. Here's the blow up of those mirrors, and this is how it works in focusing X-rays. But what can we do to make like an interactive activity, sort of like the Jelly Beans, that kind of gets that point across a little more? And we were talking about using lasers and having mirrors and trying to replicate or somewhat have some kind of model of how X-rays are focused on two bounces, grazing incidents on mirrors. And I was like, I've got all this electronic equipment at home because I got really interested in maker stuff a few years ago, and it was just sitting in my basement. I built a synthesizer with my Arduino, and then I stopped using it. But I didn't want to take it apart. So I brought all that stuff in. My office became a maker space. In fact, I got some pictures to show. That was the beginning of that. So we had this idea. It was like, well, let's build something where you can have rotatable mirrors and a laser where you can guide that laser beam down to a detector of some kind. So then we started brainstorming ideas on how we can do that. So here's a test of a mirror mechanism. It's one of the crude early designs of the mirror holder. It didn't have enough supports around the edges, so it was kind of messy looking, so we redesigned that to look more like that. And then built an enclosure for the motor that's under there. And the mirrors are
All 3D printed?
Yeah, so it's all 3D printed. I had just gotten the new printer at that point, so we were experimenting with that as well. And so there's the little motor inside, screwed in.
Just to reiterate, you get paid to do this.
Yeah. Well, I didn't tell anyone about it for a while.
And I think we all agree, like, lasers greater than jelly beans, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harder to swallow too.
There's a funny story about the laser I can tell you later. So that's how we designed the base of the mirror. There's, the connection to the motor is actually embedded inside the plastic. It's not printed that way. We designed it so that you can sort of jam it in there, and you can pull it out. It's hard to do, but you can get it out. But it holds really well. The mirrors sit on top of the motors like that, and it's not too heavy to rotate, which is great. And there's the printer actually making the mirror holder. Okay, and this was the first test of building a detector. So now we've got the mirror with the rotatable thing we shoot at. What happens when you shoot it? And so it's hard to tell it here, but there's actually a little photocell being hit by a laser. When that happens, these little LEDs light up. So that was the original design for it, and we had to figure out a way to put that all into some kind of containing thing. So we built this, Evan built this detector, sort of roughly modeled on Chandra's optical bench.
Is this like the lid of something?
That is
What is
a
this?
boot tray from Target.
I was like, this looks like a vaguely familiar sort of thing. Like,
Yeah.
oh, wait a minute, it's a food tray. Okay.
Food tray, optical bench as a food tray.
Yeah. I bought one for my kids, and then I was like, this might actually make a great optical bench for this whole project. We can drill holes through it and put all the wiring under it. Because as you can see,
So you mean it's an optical? It's a bench. It's not.
It's a high-performance piece of equipment.
well, at some point I was like, we had to start telling people about this in the outreach team, and we were demoing it sort of in this state, wires everywhere, kind of like that. That was the first demo.
It doesn't look like you can pick it up and carry it.
Yeah, exactly. That was like the big, how can we do this? How can we make this portable? How can we bring this to meetings and set it up quickly? Even if we're not there, someone has to know how to put this thing together. So the idea to build an enclosure for it quickly became important. And as you can see the complexity of the design kept getting more. We decided to add 3 more mirrors and really try to replicate the double bounce on each side. Okay, so then we got the boot tray and started drilled into it, putting everything together, and then like right before Thanksgiving, all the parts came together. I got the enclosure for the Arduino, and figured out how to wire everything underneath, and made it look really clean and professional.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I like your new laser pointer holders. by the way.
yeah, that works a lot better too. We had originally had a 3D printed laser holder that's this weird thing with like circles around it, and
Just a
it
lot
just
more
didn't work
degrees
very well.
of freedom.
Yeah.
where did these guys come from?
From like,
Random, like everything was.
some like Chinese electrical supply.
Oh yeah, okay, Alabama or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Something, okay.
A lot of parts came from Adafruit too.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
It is fruit
Yeah,
straight. I get mine
that's
from
good, yes.
So these mirrors actually come from the X-ray mirror lab that's right below Joe's office, and they've been really great. They've given us this stuff, you know, they've tested things on it, and like, they don't really need it anymore. But we would bring them to the AAS, and kids can touch them, and it's like, oh, these are really light, but they're really great mirrors. You know, these are a micro roughness of 5 angstroms or less.
Which is important for this setup.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's actual X-ray mirrors, they're not optical mirrors.
Right, yeah, yeah. And so it just kind of started that we had X-ray mirrors. Like, let's just do something with that. not everyone's gonna
So,
have
barring that caveat, anyone could make something like this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so the idea then now is to bring this to the AAS meeting and use it as a prototype, a demonstration, see how it goes. And if it's received well, then we'll make it a regular part of the AAS outreach activity. And also write up some kind of like, this is how you can build this yourself at home. And
Make it
provide
open
the
source.
code.
Yeah.
Make it completely open source.
Yeah.
The only problem would be the mirrors, I think. You know, people would have trouble finding X-ray mirrors.
Right.
All you need is a first service.
Yeah,
Plaque.
right.
Yeah.
And any kind of
Or a
mirror would work.
Yeah.
Compact,
Yeah.
basically.
Right.
And
And then it would be up to them to like build their own little mirror
Yeah.
enclosure. But otherwise, it can be replicated easily. Thanks.
Well,
Yeah, so let's try it out.
power it up. Power on.
All right, so power's on. We went through a lot of iterations trying to figure out. Well, there was a lot of safety concerns.
Oh yeah, that's the laser.
Shining lasers around, but
So no green or Blu-ray lasers. Right. Got it.
So yeah, so you can kind of see it's tricky. It's a little testy, but we don't know how kids will react to it if it's difficult. You know, so there's a couple different pieces here.
And there's still some funkiness with the motors.
Mhm.
Every once in a while, they
You
get,
guys want to be on this side so that you can see
It
the.
turns green.
Yeah, yeah. And so if you get both directly on there, it'll flash green. You'll get 2 lights. If there's only one. you
Oh,
only get one.
nice. So you did that just from the photocell output? You just
Yeah, there's a threshold that if it goes above it, it fires the other LED.
Nice.
Yeah,
It does take a little bit.
it doesn't always work perfectly.
Thanks for
It kind
saying
of depends
that.
on the ambient light in the room too.
So I don't have no idea how Chandra works because I'm like a theorist. So is this actually how Chandra works? Or like what's the connection there?
Yeah.
What are the 2 beams coming in for starters?
Well, there's actually, so for Chandra, there should be an infinite number of beams.
Right,
Right, yeah.
Right, and-
So that's why we bring this guy along. That the idea, you know, in a 2D sense, is that you just have one photon come in, hit the first, hit the second, and that's what focuses it. And so we wanted to just kind of, you know, if you cut that into sort of like almost just like a 2-dimensional thing, this is what would be happening. But yeah, if you rotate it, that's what's going on.
Yeah, X-ray optics have to work completely differently because they will either completely pass through or be blocked by optics. So you have to use this.
So you can't have
crazy-
lens, basically.
Yeah, you can't have lens.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have lancing incidence. And it's actually quantum mechanical effects that
Gotcha.
causes it to bounce. So you have to. It's not so much that they're shiny; it's that they're very dense, high Z, lots of proton materials. So gold's often used. Do you guys use gold on Chandra? We use
They're coated in zero door.
zero door.
Yeah.
Well, the zero door is the
zero
best
door is
glass.
There's an iridium.
Oh, Iridium.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Zero door is a type of glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A low expansion
Right.
glass. How do you guys deal with a general public audience? You're talking hyperpolaris. How do you deal
Oh,
with
we
that?
don't.
You don't.
Yeah.
It's just reflective surface.
Right.
2 different
Because
reflectors.
there's terminology, obviously you're going to lose your
Yeah.
audience
Yeah, definitely.
for whichever audience
Yeah, we-
you're speaking to.
Right. Yeah, we basically just say that it bounces twice. That there's 2 different sets of mirrors, and and each photon will bounce twice to hit the emitter.
3D printing question. Is
Yeah.
there a way to make that reflective? A surface reflective?
None
Not yet.
from 3D printing.
No.
There's nothing that's optical. I mean, you can print in metals, but
Just make it look reflective.
yeah, but you're not going to get any optical.
Right, no optical quality.
It goes.
But you understand where I'm getting at here.
Yeah.
There's the mirror. Well, it looks like the train inside, outside, right through the thing, right?
Yeah.
But you got to coat it, right?
Right.
Coating's the big deal.
Yeah.
That's the next big principle or big idea.
Right.
And I always felt, and how have you guys always dealt with it? You always use the analogy of X-rays at your dentist. That's a source, but they're imaging this, and it's actually the source is out there, and we're imaging it. And it seems
Yeah.
like it's a huge leap of faith for them to understand that we're actually collecting.
Right, there is
we're
a
just not
disconnect.
sending them out.
There's a disconnect, like, no, we're not X-raying things, like we're looking at these
Right.
X-rays.
What strategies have you guys used? And,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big deal. You know,
It is.
whatever age group, how do you, when you try to make it real, then suddenly you bring in all these misconceptions that are held really tight while you're trying to explain.
Right.
Not
I
even
talked
just
about it.
reflectivity. You put any other terminology in there, and they're
Right. That's why we invite you to these things, right? To just think about these things a little bit more.
I have some slides from public talks I've given that show, like, you know, what you might think of as X-rays when you have an X-ray of your hand taken or something, and it shows like an X-ray source, rays going through the hand, and then a detector on the other side.
right.
And then the analogy with X-ray astronomy, where you have X-ray sources in the sky that can go through, hit the detector on Chandra, and then make an image. So, you know, if I'm giving a public lecture, I have that slide to help explain that concept. But yeah, just doing it live in the activity.
And I'll just plug Joe, because when we've had the few times that we've had local tours, Joe is typically one of the speakers that he exists to practice
Yeah.
on these kids that come to the observatory to essentially describe these descriptions and see if it actually works with elementary school, middle school, or sometimes high schoolers.
Right.
So, okay, so this is great. And also too, I see that this can be very easily gamified, right?
Yeah.
You've got a target, you could, and when I say these things, don't think, oh my gosh, you could have done this so much better. No, now that you've done all this hard work, now it seems like there's some like easy things that you could add on, like, buzzers or, little spinning lights or whatever.
Turn this into like a target.
Well,
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't want to get too far away from the science, but there's something about gamification that kind of,
Captures
some
interest.
Exactly. So I think this is,
It captures interest and it continues interest.
Right.
yeah.
There's
And-
engagement and then there's persistence,
Right.
Yeah.
which is a big deal in museum world, right?
Exactly right. Exactly.
Different
This
from walking past it to stopping and reading the caption.
Right.
I was even thinking like one kid on each side of this trying to
Yeah.
make it focus.
That was why we put them on both sides.
Oh, okay, now
Right.
to just make it so you're like weird.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
actually, it's the dark side versus the bright side.
We're saying like maybe you could have two teams of two, or you could have a group of your 4 friends, and you could see how fast you could do it.
Yeah, exactly. Is there some way that you could have a timer or something? I mean, I think there's a lot.
Right.
What I'm saying is that this has got so much potential, I think, for doing some really cool things and getting people really engaged. And talking about the museums and stuff, I don't know about the lasers and stuff, but it's something that's interactive and hard to break and easy for a volunteer docent to understand. That is something that they're really looking for.
Right.
And I could see this, being something like that. So, maybe with some development. So, wow, amazingly well done.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Now, I want to build on that concept of the time slot.
Yeah.
You could weave that into researcher X. You got 30 minutes on the scope.
Yeah.
You got to get your data in that time.
Yeah.
That's exactly, you compete for time for a telescope. You don't get an infinite amount of time to collect photons. This all weaves into this gamification too,
Yeah.
to make it real.
Gamification is a big deal in education. Research, I don't mean.
Yes.
I only know it tangentially, so I don't mean to.
No.
steal your
You
expertise.
probably just know as much as I do, but I know it's
I'm
an
just
engagement
learning about it.
strategy,
Right.
and for persistence outside of the classroom, if they even teach it in the classroom,
So.
or use it in the classroom, I should say.
There's this speaker on TED Talk By the way, I really don't mind random tangents for this group because I am kind of a king. But there's this speaker, her name is McGonagall. I forget her first name. But
Professor.
you would hope. You would hope. She probably could be a professor at Hogwarts, I'm sure. But she does a series of TED Talks on gamification. She actually wrote a book that's really good called Reality is Broken. Unfortunately, I put it down. I haven't picked it back up. But it's not because it isn't a good book. It's a good book. It talks all about how gamification, using games and stuff to improve the human condition. Because you will have people that will sit there and play a video game for hours and hours and hours to get a little, like, you know, a series of shiny virtual coins.
Right.
But you can't get them to go outside and exercise, which will actually prolong their real life. Right? And so how do you use this gamification experience? And it's really taken off in the classroom. I work with a teacher in Nebraska, just outside of Omaha, who is now gamifying her classroom. So it's not like competition gaming, but it's using these principles of games to increase the engagement. And just when I look at this, I kind of think of like a futuristic like pinball set, you know, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I just see so much potential for this.
Or even if you're not going to like really, because I think sometimes gamification becomes this like reward system that's like not necessarily going to have like a positive feedback, or you disenfranchise people who aren't competitive, or you make it a competition instead of a learning exercise. And so it's like sometimes just a nice little reward for being engaged. It's nice. I know I've seen a couple of conferences I've gone to where it's like you stop by and you try something and you might get a pin or something like that, just like to tell your friends about this thing that you did over here. And I think that this has like a really, like, so that you don't have to necessarily create like a system and like think about all the strategy or something, but some reward that, you know, kid might walk away and have something cool that he could show his friends and say, yeah, I got it over there.
I think we have enough change swag.
Yeah, I mean, that even works at Hub Week. I went to a VR headset sort of demo thing at Hub Week, and they were giving away these little cardboard, like basically cardboard, but it was like white. It was basically a Google cardboard that was like, okay, cool, and I just walked around with it. And I had like 8 people come up to me like, where are they giving those away? And I was like, oh, over there. And they're like, do they have any left? I'm like, maybe. That kind of thing, though, I think.
But that's a good point. I mean, a lot of the gamification stuff that I've seen, you're not competing against other students, you're competing against yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a
Or if
completely...
you set out achievements, like you want them to understand the structure of this mirror as comparison to an optical setup, or what's the difference between even understanding that X-ray is a form of electromagnetic radiation. And so you have these stepped learning to get the bigger concept of, okay, this is how we actually see Chandra, to make that 3D model. And so then you make those achievement badges where you go to bronze, silver, gold, platinum, whatever, or Supergirl thing. I forget the name of the program, that SI program. Which SI program? It's a badging type of thing where you achieve badges in persistence and in activities, and then you could jump around to different activities, from curators to science to the estuary research center to the tropical, and we've contributed some stuff, and I thought you were involved.
That sounds familiar.
Chandra, for contributing towards that program too. But they use the same thing about not necessarily gamification, but it's an achievement standard that you challenge yourself to get to progress through, and you get more badging, and you're like collecting like the Pokemon card type of concept. But you get more badges the more you persist in doing these different activities. But they're all educational goals that you have to step through to get this badge.
So as long as you don't make it like the inverse of that, it'd probably be good. I mean, I remember anyone like have a thing in a classroom when they're growing up where, like for instance, I remember in elementary school, we had these 3 little happy aliens. It was like a piece of paper that would get stuck to your desk. And when you were bad, you got one of your little aliens crossed off.
So they killed it?
Yeah, they just like crossed them off.
They straight up murdered
your
it.
little happy aliens at the end of the week, if you still had a happy alien, you got like a point. And if you had all 3, you got like way more points. And at the end of the month, you basically got to like exchange points for a thing in the teacher's desk. which was usually like a wind up something. And if you're me, you didn't wind up with that wind up something because you lost all your happy aliens a lot. And that's kind
So
of
how often have you
disincentivizing.
talked about this in therapy?
Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah.
You could go way
No, because
far.
there is issues that, well, how you deal with, how different kids, the stages of learning and that, and then also how females and males deal more community or touchy-feely science versus males that can be a little bit more competitive, and gamification become more of a dominant aspect of learning, which turns all the other learners that are either quiescent, quiet, shy, or whatever have those characteristics.
Or if you're blind as a bat and no one realizes this until you're a little bit older and you can't read the board.
Again,
other
the tech
things.
is not paying attention a lot.
Right.
So I do have a psychology degree if you want to call it. There's a couch upstairs.
This is all hypothetical.
Yeah, it's all hypotheticals, you know, just trying to make
No,
sure
there's
that-
things to be aware of.
No, they are. So that's why working with education professionals that, keep up with that literature is important. But, people with 3D printers and IT people and trying to get all of this involved. This is what I just love. So I've got so many questions about this. I don't mean to dump. But this is really cool. This is really good. How long do you think start to finish did it take you to get to here?
Well, we started it in February
Uh-huh.
this year. But there was a very long break in the
Yeah.
summer where, we didn't have it ready in time for the summer AAS, and it looked like it wasn't going to happen at all.
Mhm.
So we stopped working on it for probably 4 or 5 months.
Well, there's a lot of, like red tape and stuff we had to go through. Just the mere fact that we were using laser pointers.
Right.
We had to meet with a health physicist.
Yeah, can you talk about getting it? Because
Yeah.
you haven't gone through product review yet, right?
Mhm.
No,
No,
but you have talked about the laser thing, right?
Right.
So touch upon that more. That was
Yeah, so that was illuminating.
Yeah, to a point.
He basically said, these are, how are these, 5 milliwatt?
Yeah, less than
Less than 5 milliwatts, so they're class 3, I don't even remember what it was.
It's like class 3A or something.
Yeah, so they're like dangerous to a point, like if you stare at it for 10 minutes, you will probably do damage to your eye. Or I think 2 minutes exposure would be detrimental. Direct exposure, looking right at it in your eyeball. Yeah, so the health physicist, once he realized we're using this classic laser, he was like, this is like a laser pointer. In fact, there are more powerful laser pointers that people are using at meetings and shining people in the eye with.
Yeah, right.
So you're totally fine with this. And you could put baffles up if you want around the sides just to keep it from stray
Right.
laser beams, but even that's not necessary.
because that was one of your earlier product designs that you were going to have this actually in a walled cavity.
Right. Which would have been cool if we wanted to have it like kind of completely enclosed with a glass or acrylic top and make it pump smoke in there and you can see the beam, right?
Yeah.
We talked to the engineering group here
Oh, yeah.
about that, and
Right.
I guess it took a little while for them to get back to us, because we wanted this totally encased system, so we could put some sort of smoke so you could see the optical path and all that stuff. It turned out it was going to be $9,000, and everything else in the system cost $150.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next
Couldn't
question.
you get a large fish tank and just invert it over the top and pump a bit of smoke in?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
You know?
I mean, you have a food rack from Target. You don't need the $9,000
Yeah.
enclosure.
It's crazy.
Well, our colleagues at Central Engineering
Well, the
cross all those T's and dot all
design
those
it
I's.
so it's
Little bit of
space
dry
hardened
ice.
and flying.
Are you thinking at least of maybe having a backboard? Because I'm thinking about, especially, if you're a kid and you don't
And you
necessarily
use
have the
it.
spatial
Right.
reasoning to figure out. You only have this like very narrow window of, oh, I finally figured out where the laser is pointing.
Yeah.
Is that something you're thinking about?
Yeah, that even happened to me a little bit because then I realized it was on the box. I was like, oh, I'm way off.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. We could easily put something up behind it just as a guide.
Put limits on the mirrors, although they're probably limited anyway
Yeah,
to some extent because of the geometry. But
right.
So, techie question, servos on the mirrors or
Yeah,
just
servos.
motors? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
the cheapy little $6 ones.
Question,
Really
with
tiny.
Arduino, did you consider any other, like going with Raspberry Pi or anything like that?
We did consider that in the beginning. We started with Arduino because I had one.
Okay.
Um,
pros.
Raspberry
cons.
Pi could work too, but Raspberry Pi is sort of more geared towards video output.
Yeah, I think Arduino is the right platform for this because you're basically turning a signal, an input signal to an output signal to another. And Arduino does that really well with a small amount of code.
Yeah, this is all the code that runs this thing.
Yeah, it's good as an embedded processor, a dedicated sort of one thing.
And this could be better.
Is this sort of-
Oh yeah, it all
It's not yet, but we've been talking about putting it. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm more in the Raspberry Pi space now and enjoying that a lot, except for when my Halloween costumes don't work. Right, a little bit. Turns out that the USB connections are very touchy on that, so any movement. So
Okay.
I'm learning I'm going to start potting circuits soon so that, that's putting that in a resin that's not conductive so that, things don't move around.
Right.
It becomes like a solid brick that will always work. But from what I found with the Raspberry Pi, it's really easy to do like bigger codes and like hook up with the internet and draw on a TV screen and stuff like that. And do those kind of things. Whereas with the Arduinos, which I haven't played around with as much, except for the wonderful one that we had in the library that I had a ton of fun with playing with a little maker kit with. But it seems like making a knob actually do something instead of talking to a computer. Arduino is the platform that you want to
Yeah,
have.
it's incredibly simple.
Yeah.
And how much do the Arduinos cost to use?
Is it like 30?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks like the regular.
And that one actually has a shield on top of it too that has a
He's got a motor.
breadboard because we, even though everything's self-contained, the breadboard helped with sort of the prototyping.
Oh yeah, you guys didn't solder anything.
Yeah, well, in the connections to the Arduino, nothing is
Yeah, yeah.
soldered, but everything else is. We wanted to have the Arduino sort of open and sort of the centerpiece of this to hopefully inspire, kids who are really interested in how it works to, investigate further.
Of course, you don't solder in your office.
I do.
See, when I say, of course you don't.
I mean, I don't. I never
There
do.
we go.
No.
Of course you're gonna solder it.
No, we never solder.
Never.
No. Don't solder in your place.
Of course not.
No.
I got a gale force wind that comes through there.
And so, did you make the acrylic box too?
We bought that from,
Oh,
I think that was eBay.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some guy just makes like laser etched or laser cut
Nice.
boxes, closures.
Are you guys getting the laser cutter?
Not,
Vinyl
no, we don't have
cutter.
plans to, but that would be cool.
Vinyl cutter too.
Yeah, CNC machine.
All the things I want the library to get, but they can't because of
All the
rules that
things.
you're breaking. So,
All
oh wait,
things
can
were
we
not
edit that part of the tape out? Just cut that.
Crap.
Yeah.
Is that streaming?
Yeah. A little. No, not like anybody's watching.
Yeah.
The only people that's watching is like, I think your boss, maybe.
Okay.
Well, it's like that. This is the sort of like what the library can do to facilitate this stuff, though, even if we can't actually get a 3D printer because of concern about fumes and smells and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Like, there's any number of ways that I think that we could actually support this. It's just, figuring out what those things are and where we actually fit with this endeavor. I mean, we've had hack days, for instance, where like we crack open a window and someone solders something by the window or something like that, and I just pretend I'm not looking, but we don't necessarily like have
I
the
certainly
capacity.
did provide the soldering gun for that.
And certainly you didn't do
No.
that.
No,
So,
honest to God, there's more turnover of the air in this space than I think in any other place in our,
Right.
especially in my lab and in your office.
Yeah. As long as you don't run a diesel generator out in front of those air intakes.
we've
you're fine.
had issues with that sort of thing. Like, just because there's a history of air quality issues in the space, so I think there's like a high
They weren't caused from within the space.
No.
Always outside.
No, there was in the not so distant past, that's a giant air intake, and there was a construction situation right outside here where it parked for months, like exhaust piping in through the air intake essentially, and that wasn't good. Everyone agreed.
Well, everyone, N minus one people agreed.
Yeah.
Well, one person's like, toughen up.
Yeah.
He goes out and.
So there are no names in this, but this is the thing that happened. And I think now because of that, there's a bit of a hypersensitivity to us having anything in the library space without proper ventilation.
So back to this, do you plan on, you guys have activities on your EPO site. Are you planning links to this?
When we
Struct-
see
no.
how it goes at the AAS meeting, assuming that it goes well, then we're going to develop outreach materials for it, handouts, make the code available on GitHub, provide instructions. There will be links on the outreach website for sure.
All the files for the 3D printing.
Yeah, right. All the 3D printed parts will provide files for it too.
Nice.
The people out, who else is doing this in our EPO land in terms of Maker 3D stuff? Because are you putting out the models? I thought I saw someone putting models out, plans for models out.
Well, NASA does that. NASA has a whole 3D
Right.
resources. Yeah.
And what formats do they put out? They just,
Usually
there's no
STL
standard, they
or
don't care.
OBJ files.
Okay.
So, and I plan on using you guys as a model into NASA too, because I'm working with them too for trying to make the 3D prints of solar structures and different things
Right.
like that. So I'm hoping to do more of that actually starting in the new year. And
By the way, we have to start talking about your Eclipse stuff. Wasn't there supposed to be some type of meeting
Yeah.
with Kathy and you and us?
Was there?
That's what I heard.
I don't.
Not necessarily develop anything, just coordinate stuff.
Yeah,
We're not
we
going to
need-
do it
okay.
between now and then.
That's another meeting that we need to have, sure. Yeah,
That's
so
gonna come up
I'm
quickly,
the
too.
education coordinator for the AAS Eclipse team, so I should probably be doing stuff like that. I've been working with other people doing stuff.
Go, Jeff.
Got it? All right. cool.
Okay.
So now that Jill's gone, we can talk about the
I
real
know, now you're
stuff.
talking about me.
Did you see her hair? Can you believe what she's no? So thanks a lot. So this is great. And
For
this
those
kind
of us that have hairs.
Hey, I just go for an aerodynamic look.
You and me both.
Yeah. It saves me a lot of time in the morning, and I make this look good. But on a serious note, so this is exactly why I wanted to have people talk, and this kind of discussion I think is 100% great. And I wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about what would you guys like to see in the new year? Because I want to keep this group kind of active and doing things because I love these conversations. And Jill and I, so Jill is taking charge of trying to get a tour of the Harvard iLab, which is the Harvard incubator space where they have students and come in and try to help them with their startups and help them talk to people. I'd like to
tight link with engineering? With C's?
There is a link with C's and the computer, but namely, so C's and the practical computing. So that's why that might be of interest. Although I think it maybe is a little bit more focused on the business end of things, but it might be just interesting to see. I would also like to take
It
a
could be a
tour.
two-parter, right?
Yeah, right, sure. I'd like to take a tour of the MIT Media Lab and talk to some people there. So I was thinking about maybe doing some field trips in the new year.
Well, the Harvard Library's Research, Teaching, and Learning group that I'm in, we love field trips, and there's a number of field trip locations that we didn't get buy-in for this year
Okay.
that depressed me a little bit. But one of them was the Wright Brothers Wind Tunnel at MIT. We'll do tours and talk about how they use the wind tunnel in education. And so if I could make a pitch for a trip to the Wright Brothers Wind Tunnel, that's where.
So these are the kind of suggestions and things that I'd like to. So does this sound like something that? I mean, I think this would be something that would be kind of fun for us to do. Maybe in addition to maybe sometimes I've got a cool project. Let's get together and have a discussion like we did today. And then there's this neat place. Let's do a field trip that works in the schedule. I would also like to do a hack day. The library hosted a hack day here. And it went really well. I totally didn't lend anybody a soldering gun, but I did totally bring one that I didn't plan on using. But I mean, I've got a bunch of projects that I would like to get more started on, and kind of having a formal day to do that is something that I would like.
If those are the sort of activities too you guys are at all interested in, we're doing, for instance, OIR is having a 4-day event in here, get things done, finish what you started is what they're calling it, where they're having their whole team bring whatever projects they have not completed this year and just try to basically marathon through finishing them before the new year. And so I like the idea of the library having that sort of activity be in here, and we're providing coffee and tea and things like that for them. So
Well, I see the library is facilitating a lot of these things, so that's what I see you guys as doing.
So if you want to finish what you started here.
Yeah. Well, no, this is the finish. I mean, this is really great.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really like this, and I want you guys to kind of give me some input on some of the things I'm
You
playing
need to
on.
paint stars along the outside of it or something. Stickers, gold stickers.
Well, mission patches. You want it to look technical. You want it to look like this is a piece of equipment that just came from space.
I just want to like bedazzle it.
You want it- See, that's why you make
but
your
I,
own.
But I'm not a Chandra scientist. So.
No, but you know, you can have your own bedazzled version. This is all going to be open source, right? So you know,
All you need is a boot tray.
there's
I was just like, why does this look so familiar? This really looks like something I have in my house. Is this the lid to something? I probably have the same sort of thing for shoes.
Yeah.
Like under my shoe rack.
So anyway, so these are the types of things I was thinking about in the new year, and it sounds like maybe those are the things that everybody would like to do and get on board. I mean, from what I got from the survey, which not everybody filled out, but you can still fill it out. It really takes like 5 minutes. Please fill it out, because that'll help me kind of figure out what kind of things we all want to do as a group. But I think everybody just kind of wanted a social group where they could talk to different people about their kind of interesting and wild ideas. And that's honestly really what I wanted to when I started this, is just sit around, have coffee, some cookies, some snacks, and, you know, say I'm doing something that's a little bit off the normal astrophysicist track or whatever, and doing this neat, innovative thing.
But the cool thing is that we have a theorist and an art person that can pipe up and talk about your perspectives too.
Exactly.
Which
That's what
allow
we want.
us to broaden our horizon.
And an education specialist to do the same thing. And we, so Kristen Devona couldn't be here today because she's assisting Kim, because I think they got double the number of girls at the code event than they were expecting. So, but you know, we have a professional designer as well, and that's actually a skill that I've come to appreciate.
Right.
And that's 3 months. So it's like getting together with people with all these different skill sets. But I also like for us to do some fun things too, like, you know, maybe a field trip every now and then.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
I want to go to the wind
Yeah.
tunnel really badly. So if someone else like loves the
I-
whole field trip idea, I'll be like, I'm pitching this.
I
I
know.
don't even care if it's
And it's fine to pitch these things that you want, and I think your buying's probably going to carry that through. So it's like noon. I don't think there's anybody after us, so, you know, hang out and eat more cookies if you want. But anybody else have anything they want to say? So this is the last time I'm planning to get together until 2017 because holidays and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds good.
And there will be, I guess, a recording of this meeting on the library's YouTube.
That's right. Yeah, so hopefully Casey's watching and shuts off the feed about now.
Except for the parts where Joe and I talk about.
Yeah, we'll just introduce some
We'll beat
stuff.
those out.
Hey, does
Yeah.
Sorry, break it up.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would actually be mad.
Oh, so last thing, cake, cookies, and snacks. Yeah.
Chocolate is something I
So
cannot
why is
say.
that? There's a whole lot of chocolate.
Why should I,
That's a
right?
single, that's a single extruder.
Hopefully.
So all of the support material along with
See,
Send it to you.
So when it's done, you have to break all the supports off, and a lot of it leaves a lot of artifacts.
Didn't you? So I'm looking some pictures of this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's one of the projects I thought that we might do is a group project is maybe making like a DARTS webpage where we can all highlight all these kind of different things that we're doing. And maybe hopefully if everybody puts a little bit of time and all of our different skill sets into it, it's not that much work for any one person. So that's something that people would like to do. And Gabrielle, I really am glad that you've been coming and making the walk from campus to join us. I really appreciate. Yeah, you're always welcome. If you see Francesca, I mean, one of my best experiences is working with the Harvard Art Museums and doing a collaborative project with them. And I really want to do more of that kind of thing. I'm hoping that as you're seeing some of the things that you do with your artistic eye, you might see that, oh, you know, we can maybe bring this and develop it into something. Because I think that would be
For scale.
For scale, yes. It's a very large
Purpose.
cupcake.
Purpose.
Several light years across. Well, I was going to send it to my son, to Jeremy. He'll get a kick out of it.
This is neat. So be thinking about it too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you
just
would,
another
just
thing about
think about all the different things that you're saying and what we're talking about, and if you think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that we don't have much money or anything, but we've got a lot of interest here.
Well, that's one of the great things about the Ultimate.
The great thing about the Lightbox gallery is, you know,
Really good at high
it doesn't
resolution.
take- it doesn't take any money to get it. Yep.
0.1 micron resolution.
Right. Well, for me, last time it took some development time.
Even
But,
that, one mic.
but,
Yeah, or one.
yeah,
sorry,
the things
one
that
micron.
Jill's doing are, Benedict are doing, those things, they're already being developed for a smaller screen, and so to just expand it out to a little bit larger screen, I think that would be something that, you know, we could support internally, and just show it.
And that's why this new printer with this
Always thank you for
separate
that.
support material is something.
And
Nice to meet you.
take some cookies.
Yeah.
I might have to steal it. There's
Oh, yeah,
some chocolate
steal.
left. I think I might have to steal. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and that's just the like little 3-inch one. The 5-inch one. Oh, those are jet materials shooting out from it. Yeah.
It's so nice to have a grant that will actually pay for food.
Something like that.
Yeah, I just saw it.
Oh, okay, very good. Want to take?
I'm not sure exactly how the model was created. It was part of a research project about 7 years ago.
I really am kind of in love with
They
this.
took Doppler measurements
It is
from.
cool. But it also
infrared
shows how
measurements from
raising
Spitzer.
it is
And
because
mapped it onto the
it's
X-ray
illuminating the
morphology.
side.
So
when
they
you
used that
hit.
to determine the
Yeah, I
three-dimensional
wonder
structure, and then build the model from the X-ray.
It's interesting about the cloud.
Yeah, right. That's why I think
The smoke box. If you reverse this,
Sometimes it rattles a little bit.
right?
Yeah.
So instead
So
of
the
the target,
spools
you
are
have
like
the laser
750 milligrams
with the
spools.
scanning
They're
mirror.
about $45.
And if you shine,
And
you have
I've already
smoke
done.
over here, and you control the
Yeah.
mirrors, you can in real time see the pattern.
It's kind of expensive, but I've done 8-inch prints
that
of
is
this and
sensitive.
determined that the cost of the 8-inch print was about $20.
So you can sort of fashion
There's
the light.
also feedback.
Yeah.
I see. I see.
Which is
I'm not sure how much it weighs.
Yeah, sometimes if you just like turn it to one side and then turn it back,
It
usually
feels
it's okay.
dense,
But
but
maybe it's not. Maybe I'm overestimating.
I know it's sort of
Yeah.
principles
It's
of
mostly
reverse
hollow
of what
in the
you're doing because then you've got
Yeah.
a source where the detector is, but at least then you've got a demonstration of how it will.
Thanks.
So what are you saying?
Have a scanning laser at this point and smoke, and you have the mirrors, and you'll be able to see the contour of the light from the laser source.
Who paid for your 3D
So,
printer?
because it's really a demonstration of
Chandra.
advancing mirrors.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the thing that I'm excited about though is that 3D printers costs are coming down so much that it's getting in the realm of schools now.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I'm interested in is making similar 3D prints to yours, working with Frank maybe to do some curriculum development behind
Right.
it. And so, a school could print their own, interactive, tactile
I should
lesson.
talk to Kim about the Build a Galaxy thing we've been working on.
Okay.
It's part of the CAN project.
As part of your camp, so I'm on a separate camp.
Yeah.
So,
Adaptive optics.
and I really want to talk to you about
Pays
texture
for
and stuff
telescope.
because I'm working with,
Our engineers is building
I'm starting to work with the blind and visually impaired. So trying
He
to
was using smoke.
get across information tactically that we experience digitally.
Were you part of that? I saw that paper on the archive by Madura and I.
No, it's not me. I'm actually just getting started.
Gotcha, yeah, but you know what I'm talking about.
I've seen it and I haven't read it yet.
Stellar Winds
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Did some 3D prints and did it. So actually, I
Yeah,
have
so
my 3D
that's-
prints
that's
online
interesting.
available for exactly this reason. And then someone actually did a major copyright violation, so I had to take them off. But
Seriously?
yeah, it's unbelievable stuff. But I would if the idea is to put them back up and make them available for
Kill the stream.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like when you say texture, you mean the exact surface that
The surface texture, so that we can represent information that we're typically representing via color,
Maybe we should
how to represent that.